Do single-celled life forms have behavior? If so, what internal mechanisms or qualities drive this behavior? And if not, then how can they do complex things like chase each other around? When I see a video like this one of a white blood cell chasing a bacterium that is evading capture, I make an assumption that both of these organisms are behaving, by which I mean they are doing something beyond simply reacting to the chemistry or physics of their environment. To clarify, a dead leaf skitters across the ground when the wind blows, but that is not behavior, just a reaction of a physical body to the force of the wind. Are the white blood cell and the bacterium doing more than that? Is there some internal operation that adds something to their response to their chemical and physical environment? To clarify further, humans perceive their environment and then react in complex ways to it that are determined by a central nervous system. The single-celled organisms don't have such a system, right? But do they have something more than a dead leaf has, which helps to determine their response to their environment? What, if anything, drives the behavior of these organisms? What do we call it? And how does it work? White blood cells, probably a monocyte or macrophage, and other single-celled organisms tend to follow chemical concentration trails. They detect pathogen-associated molecular patterns, which are molecules on pathogens which are fairly common, and then move to chase down that concentration gradient. Human cells also communicate with white blood cells, and bacteria communicate with each other. Bacteria have a thing called quorum sensing, where they detect chemical signals of others of their kind and at a certain concentration change their behavior. If you want to know more about this concentration gradient following behavior, this wiki article is fairly good for it. Cells do have behavior, in the sense you are asking. It's true that the cell is following a chemical gradient, but it's not simply following a chemical gradient. A leaf is simply following the direction of the wind, in the sense that the wind pushes the leaf and the leaf goes along as a result of this push. All that's required is for something to exist with wind resistance and sufficiently low mass for it to be pushed by the wind. But a cell is different. Cells, especially eukaryotic cells, are remarkably complex. A white blood cell is responding to a chemical gradient, but unlike a leaf in the wind, a cell placed in a chemical gradient won't just be pulled along by the chemical gradient. Instead, the cell has to have sensing molecules in its membrane that detect the chemical and release some signaling compound inside that cell. And then that signaling has to activate a rather complex bit of cytoplasmic machinery which gets a cycle of movement in the cell going that results in it crawling or swimming toward the stimulus. There are even feedback effects in this process that help resolve a situation when a cell is getting two signals at once, and cells have the ability to toggle on or off or modify their chemotaxis behavior, for example in response to some other environmental stimulus or internal state. Sure, you can boil it all down to chemicals if you want, but I think that obscures an important aspect of what's happening, which is the internal processing and feedback that makes it different from an object merely being pushed around by outside forces. In short, I'm entirely comfortable describing what they do as behavior. It's definitely more than what a dead leaf does, although not as much as a typical multicellular organism. After all, every nerve cell in an animal is similarly sensing and integrating chemical signals. And animals have many nerve cells all working together, and other cells besides. Here's some articles about sensing and movement you may find interesting. Link. It's a pretty cool topic.